I was asked an interesting question last week. With the Bears back in the playoffs for the first time in 8 years, someone wanted to know what team I'd be most concerned about facing in the first round, between the Vikings, Eagles, and the Seahawks. I said the Eagles, which seemed to surprise some people. Not really sure why, considering how well they've been playing lately. And sure enough, that's exactly who the Bears got. I think I need to learn how to keep my mouth shut. So why did this Philadelphia team concern me more than the others? Honestly, because of how well they match up with the Bears. Keep in mind, it's not always about what team is better. Some teams are just built to counter what another team does. Think the Giants' Super Bowl win over the Patriots. The G-Men weren't the best team. What they were was the best team to beat the Patriots. In a similar fashion, the Eagles, while probably not the better team on paper right now, match up pretty damn well with Chicago on the field. So with that in mind, we're going to have a look at some of the key matchups in this upcoming Round 1 slugfest. This is your Chicago Bears game preview for Wildcard Weekend. For sentimental reasons, we're going to start with Alshon Jeffrey, who, as some of you might remember, is a big-bodied receiver who excels at using his size to create separation from defenders. He'll likely match up with Kyle Fuller much of the day, who's a ball-hawking outside corner who prefers to play off the line, while always looking to jump out-breaking routes. It's a big reason why he leads the NFL in interceptions this season. I'd be shocked if Doug Peterson didn't already know this, so I'd expect him to avoid those types of routes for the most part. I'd look for him to send Jeffrey on plenty of inside slants where he can exploit Fuller's generous cushion and use his size to get easy yards over the middle. You might also see a few outbreaking double moves meant to bait Fuller into jumping. Of course, this is in addition to his standard complement of jump ball fades, which, let's face it, pretty much is bread and butter. On the other side, Prince Amukamara prefers to play tight coverage and challenge receivers at the line. While effective, this makes him somewhat vulnerable to speedy deep threat receivers, and unfortunately, that's exactly what Nelson Agholor is. So we should expect a heavy dose of go and corner routes out of him, which has the potential to spell trouble. Of course, a lot hangs on the return of Eddie Jackson. If he's able to come back for this game, his excellent range and instincts will help mitigate any matchup issues and give Nick Foles tight windows to throw into downfield. If Jackson isn't able to return, then the team will be left to rely on Deion Bush. And while he's a solid player, he's not Eddie Jackson. So the secondary will lack that strong safety net that he provides as an instinctual ball hawk with a tendency to play the quarterback, the speed to close on deep routes, as well as underneath routes, and a knack for turning picks into points. Dude's kind of important. Moving inside, we have Golden Tate, who will likely match up on Sherrick McManus. He's played solid ball filling in for the injured Bryce Callahan, really solid in fact. But Tate's one of the best slot receivers in the NFL, and he could pose a problem for him. Should Eddie Jackson return to the field, it would likely reduce the effectiveness of both Jeffrey and Agholor. In that case, I'd expect to see a heavy dose of Tate in the passing game. Look for Peterson to send him on plenty of crossing routes, maybe with some hitch-and-go options mixed in for good measure, the goal being to reduce Jackson's impact on the passing game and to take advantage of whatever the defense gives him. And that brings us to Zach Ertz, and whether you put a corner, safety, or linebacker on him, Ertz presents a mismatch. He's probably the best tight end in football. Dude's nearly unstoppable on any kind of short crossing route, and he's got the receiving chops to be a 6'5", 250-pound nightmare downfield. All that talent mixed with personnel-specific matchup problems and Doug Peterson's play calling and design would pose a pretty big challenge for any secondary. But the Bears have another weapon in their arsenal that might help mitigate the risk: their pass rush. Now, Nick Foles doesn't fold under pressure like, say, Jared Goff, and the Eagles' offensive line does do a good job of keeping a clean pocket. But he's not exactly mobile, so if you get in his face, you can force early throws, and you'll likely see some mistakes. This also removes the ability for long developing routes to take shape. This will force Peterson to rely mainly on the short passing game, allowing the Bears' rangy linebackers and safeties to come down and make plays to limit gains. Assuming their tackling holds up, which, it's been better lately, but jury's still out on that. Looking at the Eagles' defense, their secondary is pretty far from intimidating, having been decimated by injury this season. That said, they do boast a pretty excellent pass rush. Of course, the Bears' O-line has been pretty good in pass protection this season as well, and looking pretty deep at the moment. On top of that, Mr. Trubisky's been pretty great under pressure this season. With his uncanny pocket awareness and ability to escape, he's boasting a top 10 passer rating when under pressure. So this should be an interesting duel to watch unfold up front. These two teams also feature similarly diverse running games, each employing a committee approach with a big bruising back, a smaller shifty playmaker, and solid role players filling in when needed. Both teams also employ the run-pass option a fair amount, allowing them to more readily take advantage of what defenses give them, both on the ground and through the air. Of course, both teams will also be facing a top 10 run defense, though to be fair, Philly's run D is good, but Chicago's run D is scary good. Seriously, they're on a whole other level. End of the day, these two teams match up super well with one another. Two strong pass rushes, two strong and versatile backfields, two strong run defenses, two deep receiving cores, two offensive lines adept at keeping the quarterback protected, two creative and adaptable offensive coaches calling the shots. It's going to be a good game. But with the Eagles' lack of a strong secondary, Mitch Trubisky's ability to thrive under pressure, Vic Fangio's otherworldly run defense and ball-hawking secondary, plus Chicago's level of play when at Soldier Field, I think the advantage has to go to the home team here. My prediction, Bears 30, Eagles 21. Just for kicks, let's run some Madden sims and see what the computer thinks. Traitor.